Coming up after the break, if you live in Ontario but love BC wine, you're in luck. You may not even have to go to the liquor store for pickup. The Roundup is next. North American markets were a little higher today. There's word Yahoo may be close to a deal to sell its online assets to Verizon for a price tag of $5 billion. That story kicks off the Roundup. Nicole Verkindt is president of OMX. $5 billion for Yahoo? What do you think?
Well, I'm not exactly clear what parts of Yahoo this is, but they're saying it's the core business, the internet piece of the business. This has been a rocky road for Yahoo, and I think you'll see that reflected in the stock. And the one thing Yahoo has been doing for a living lately is being for sale. So this has been a long road, and the fact that Verizon's interested and they own the AOL brand now is interesting. It's sort of sentimental to me. AOL and Yahoo were the brands I used when I first started using the internet, in the early 90s, but they're kind of dinosaur internet brands now. So I'm not sure, but obviously they have a lot of users, they have a lot of content, they have a lot of valuable content, and the point here is that Yahoo is very diversified. They have had a huge lack of focus. They've made a lot of acquisitions, and so in this case, they're going to be worth a lot more to a part of Yahoo will be worth a lot more to a company than on its whole, is the theory.
And is it a case where Marissa Mayer just couldn't make it work on its own, that it has to partner up? Is it one of those situations where a company has to lean on another?
Look, it's been very tough for Marissa Mayer. I've followed her career quite closely. Yahoo has been in this divide where they were unsure if they were a content company, a media company, or a technology company. So when they were deciding to switch it up and they went with Marissa Mayer, they chose her because of her technology background, because of her leadership at Google, and she's an engineer and she's got that strong technology background, and that was the leadership she was driving towards, is creating products. So she tried to reinvent Yahoo Mail. She tried to get search back up and going. But the problem with all these the benefit of all these platforms, which we're going to get to later today, is that they really are winner-take-all markets. And so as soon as Google came along and Google search, then Yahoo didn't really have a chance. But there's still a lot of people that visit Yahoo. People still haven't ditched their email. Yahoo Finance is a very powerful content brand. They own Tumblr, worth billions of dollars. So there's a lot of valuable assets still here. I don't know what the future is for Marissa Mayer, though.
1 billion visitors a month to Yahoo's properties, it says here, but I can't think of the last time. Well, when's the last time you visited one of their properties? Or is this getting to Alta Vista's search engine status?
I think that was in the 90s, Harvard. I think I used AOL to get onto Yahoo.
Yeah. All right. I was trying to figure out what you're wearing on your wrist there, because we want to talk about Apple's smartwatch. I don't know whether that is one or not. But Apple's sales smartwatch have declined sharply. What does that tell you?
So I love my smartwatch, and I'm going to get to the reasons why. But let's start with the negative side. So there's limited amount of wrist real estate, and you've seen a huge surge in wearables and people wearing all sorts of devices to track their steps and track what they eat and track all sorts of things. And so they really have to decide on one product, which is one of the reasons why I love the watch, because you can integrate all these technologies into one place. I think what's happening are the watches tend to be a lot less popular among men. So I've just noticed that. That's anecdotal. I don't have the data behind that. But I find one of the valuable things for me is my phone will be in my purse and the watch is notifying me about important things that are happening. My Uber is coming. I have an appointment coming up. Somebody is calling. Do I want to ignore them or dig in my purse to grab the call? So the watch tends to be, from what I've seen a lot more women get more value at it. And I've also seen it as a fashion thing, that there's men a little bit more so than women. I find the watch is sort of the pride of their fashion, and they don't want to switch over to a smartwatch, which is a little bit uglier. So there's pros and cons to this device. When we talk about overarching the future of devices, though, that is endless. Everything is going to be connected, and your car is going to be connected, your fridge is going to be connected. All of these things, the Internet of Things, is here, it's happening, and it's expanding exponentially every year. And so we're going to see a dramatic increase in a lot of our devices being connected to each other. So I think it's just the beginning.
Wrist real estate. Hadn't heard that one before. Edward Snowden is said to be working on a much more secure smartphone for journalists. Your
Right.
thoughts
He's keeping
on that?
himself busy while in exile. It's good. I think he's solving a real problem, and that's the downside of what we're talking about when we talk about Internet of Things and everything being connected. And there's lots of areas in this world where it's very dangerous for journalists to go or people of interest to go when every little thing is being watched. And so I think it's good what he's doing. I've seen the backing from the LinkedIn founder who's giving money to people who are also trying to contribute to this issue. And there's actually a world-renowned lab based at the Monk School in the University of Toronto that I'm aware of called the Citizen Lab. And they're focused on this very same problem, which is, I think, we're only going to see more of in the future.
Well, just look at the headlines today. The tragedy in Germany,
right.
And there'll be more pressure to get more information to prevent just this kind of thing. I wonder where that's going to go.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. I have a sad note for Warren Buffett in the Olympics for billionaires. He's no longer the bronze medalist. He slipped to fourth place. Have you heard, and are you sad for him?
I don't feel sorry for Warren Buffett, no, but I'm not surprised. These founders of marketplace businesses that become winner-take-all markets, and by the nature of the way they operate are monopolies and become monopolies, they are becoming wealthier in an exponential fashion. So you've got companies like Uber. They are the largest automotive company, frankly, and do not own a single car. And Airbnb that has more rooms rented out than all the hotels combined, and they don't own a single room. There's no bricks and mortar here. Amazon is bigger than Walmart, but there's no retail aspect to them that's physical yet. I believe the future will be a combination, but that said, these founders of these companies that are marketplaces and winner-take-all platforms that don't require massive amounts of bricks and mortar, they have an ability to gain enormous amounts of wealth and exponential amounts of wealth. And a guy like Jeff Bezos is also really contributing back into the next generation, and he owns a big percentage of actually a competitor of ours, and he's contributing to that company and helping them significantly. So I think it's just going exponential. The good thing about Warren Buffett is I think his wealth is a little bit is less riskier.
And they both have north of $60 billion, so I don't think we need to be worried for either one of them. But it's so interesting that they've made their money in such different ways, and what that tells us about the way the world's going.
Yeah, absolutely. I would say they've made their money in opposite ways, right? Warren Buffett's been all blue chip and investing in things like Walmart, whereas Bezos has been the opposite.
Well, we've heard some negative signs out of the premiers' meetings, but apparently they have a deal on a very crucial aspect of interprovincial trade. Let's hear more from Ontario Premier Kathleen Wynne.
The LCBO is going to be launching an e-commerce site that will allow people in Ontario to buy wine from Quebec and British Columbia.
CBO, of course, the LCBO, of course, is the liquor store in Ontario. So, what does this tell you?
Well, I think it's very positive. From what I understand, the federal government took the lead here and got the provinces together, and I think that was a very positive move they made. And I think the provinces, we need to get together and consider the rest of the world our competition, and we shouldn't be competing against each other. And the more we can move goods across the provincial lines, the better, because we could displace imports and be more competitive. And the more and more we reduce regulations and reduce red tape and allow businesses to do what they do best, it's better. In the case of the government running an e-commerce site, I'm not sure that they're the best ones to be marketing these goods to other people, to consumers. But I think the more the provinces can get together and reduce this red tape, that's a positive thing.
Well, let's just jump ahead a bit. Let's imagine a Canada where the wine does flow freely across the borders. What might that mean to our wine industry?
Oh, I see it as a hugely positive thing. I was in Mendoza in winter in Argentina and found a beautiful bottle of wine, and I wanted to bring it back to Canada, and they were getting the paperwork ready. They thought I was American, and then as soon as they found out I was from Ontario, let alone Canada, they said, not a chance. And so and then I found out when I got back to Canada that I couldn't even do the same thing if I found a bottle of wine I liked in BC. And so I'm an entrepreneur, and the only rule I know in business is you have to be able to sell. And if you don't sell, you die. And so the more we can allow companies to be able to sell and make that easier on them, it's always better.
And we'll see whether this causes a race to raise standards and appeal to consumers and maybe an overall improvement.
That'd be great.
All right.
I like wine, so I'm okay with it.
Okay, first wine. We'll see where that goes next. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Howard.